Parker and Manu Ginobili, the way they're scoring at will, they're doing everything they can to stay in this series, man. And so, it's just Golden State's just got too much firepower. I mean, that's really what it is. And their mindset is completely different from what it's something when you win a championship, your mindset is different. And their mindset is not about winning one champion, it's about winning multiple. It's about really doing something what the Lakers have done. The past Lakers have done is really dominating in a millennium in their time, and that's what they're trying to do over there. So that's when you have that type of mindset and everybody has that one same goal. You're a very tough team to beat, and they're champions.
Yeah, 5 championships speaks for itself, and I've always thought the fact that how they were been so spread out, going back obviously to the first one in '99 against the Knicks, that to me made it even more impressive. So 32-31, Golden State on top right now as they play in the second quarter, 8.5 to go. At halftime, down in New Orleans, Pelicans all over the Trailblazers, Keith, 64-45.
Oh, God, man.
You said last night this series is probably over, and that is definitely showing itself to be probably true at the moment, the way that New Orleans is dominating this Game 3. We said last night how it's just it's a mismatch in this series. Portland is, like you said, they're in trouble. They cannot keep pace with what the Pelicans are doing. And Damian Lillard, he's got 12 points right now, but he's going to have to turn it up a lot more.
Yeah, you're right.
They're going to have a chance to come back.
And look, they're getting production. This is what tells you their team is clearly they're not better than New Orleans. They're getting production from Aminu. He's got 14 right now. He's got 15 points.
15, yeah.
You got Lillard with 12. And you got C.J. McCollum with 14. That's your big three. So you're getting points from them, and then you look down the list. You got Nikola Mirotic with 21 points. There's the X factor right there. You got Anthony Davis, so you're controlling Anthony Davis with 12. But then the whole thing is this: Rajon Rondo. It's not his point production; it's 10. Look at his assist. He has 8 assists already. He has 6 rebounds. He has 6 rebounds total, and then you got Jrue Holiday with 12. So that 8 assists right there, that's what's kicking their tail. This guy has 8 assists, and he has 10 points and 8 assists. So, Rajon Rondo is the one that's really doing them in right now. You gotta figure out a way how to slow him down.
Yeah, once they're able to do that, they might be able to actually get back in the series. At this point, though, I think when they figure it out, it's probably going to be too late. Yeah. Too late. But you're right, though, with Rondo, the 8 assists on his way to a triple-double here, he has really been a big difference. We know about Davis and how he has dominated this series, but really, like we talked about last night, Rondo's ability to do what he's doing, like you just pointed out there, Keith, is a big reason why they're up big here in Game 3 and up 2-0 in the series. Jrue Holiday, once again, playing well for the Pelicans. We talked about him last night. He continues to play good basketball on the defensive side as well. So we'll see. We'll see if Portland can make this a game at all once the second half tips off, as it looks like it's just tipped off now in New Orleans. So we'll keep tabs on it. Yeah. Once again, it's Behind the Mic. We're live from Kings Cove here inside the Toyota Sports Center, El Segundo. A big crowd on hand. We were a little unsure what it would be like tonight. The fans still licking their wounds a little bit with the Kings being swept away by Vegas. The Ducks, they're out of it now as well, as they lost to San Jose last night. They're done, so professional hockey, at least here in the LA area, is done, but that doesn't slow down the hockey leagues for the young kids.
Slow down? Because you got the youngins out here. You got the young future stars out here playing. And these parents are out here having a good time, having some drinks, eating their food, watching their kid or their friend's kid or whoever the kid is play. And they're going at it, man. I mean, right above us on the right side where we're looking at it. These parents are yelling and screaming, and I guess it's a great game that's going on here. So, that's what you get over here when you come to Kings Cove. You know, you get some excitement regardless of what's going on.
And right behind us, they brought in tonight somewhat of like a mini penalty box almost. And on the back, it says "We Are All Kings," and it's got autographs from, it looks like probably a lot of different of the players in here, of the the younger leagues and the semi-pro leagues, and really nice touch they have inside here. To me, this is one of the most unique setups you'll ever see of a sports bar. Honestly, it is very cool. If you haven't come out yet, over on Nash Street in El Segundo, it is a unique setup. I've never seen anything like it. I've been in other, obviously, like setups like this where you have like ice rinks, practice rinks, and things like that. But I've never come across a sports bar like this. So it goes without saying, it is very unique how they've constructed it here. And everyone has a great time. It's always very lively, even after Kings hockey has gone away.
Yeah, you're totally right. I thought it would be more people having more of a Debbie Downer. But they're celebrating their season still. And, the Kings are still a premier team in the NHL. Just a few years ago, they won a Stanley Cup. So
yes,
let's don't forget about that. And look, they're trying. They're going to rebuild, and they're going to get better as the years go. I think they know where their weak spot is this year. And I think it does leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth, them getting swept. It just doesn't sound right with the Kings, at least. Because you've seen them come back 3-1 before and actually win the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So you would think they could do it. But, that's hockey, man. And I think they just had some injuries this year and things like that. But they'll be back. And Kings Cove's not going anywhere, and fans are not going anywhere. They're going to come back, and they're going to be rooting for their team. And, you walk in this bar over here, man, it's a hockey bar.
Oh, yeah.
It is a hockey bar. You may got 2 TVs, and you probably have different sports, but mainly this is like their March Madness, but hockey. That's what it is. We can just call it the April Madness.
I like it.
That's what it is right here, and over here in hockey.
Maybe trademark that one.
Oh, I know, right?
That's a new one right there. Just getting started tonight here on Behind the Mic, as we've been talking about live from Kings Cove, as we usually are on Thursday evenings. Dustin Nosler, he's coming up after the break, Dodgers insider from DodgersDigest.com. He also co-hosts the very popular Dugout Blues podcast, which you can find on the iTunes store. We'll talk with him about all things Dodgers related on the other side. Also coming up on tonight's show, we'll talk about the NFL schedule being released for 2018 this evening. We'll get into the Rams, Chargers schedule as well. Where do the defending champs open up? We'll talk about that tonight. Giants release Brandon Marshall. We can touch on that. Dwight Freeney, he is going to be retiring next week with the Colts. And if we have time, at the end of the show, we can also talk about the Lance Armstrong settlement finally happening today after a very, very long lawsuit battle there versus him and the United States. Behind the Mic to call in, 213-261-7491, 213-261-7491. Brad and Keith back with more after this.
Every 17 months, Make-A-Wish makes the impossible possible. They tame dragons. They bring Saturn to Earth. They help superheroes save entire cities. They even make unicorns fly. All to give children the strength they need to fight their critical illnesses. Every wish takes muscle. Help us make sure every wish comes true. Join us at wish.org.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Beyond all the hospitals and doctors and surgeries they need just to survive, they also deserve whatever they need to truly live. All the in-home care and day-to-day help they need to live independently, on their own terms. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs were established to provide these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence, at no cost, for life. So many of them need us, and it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Find out how you can do your part at findwwp.org.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? Shifting to a system based on primary care can help fix the problem. Patients with a primary care doctor live longer, healthier lives and are less likely to suffer from cancer, heart disease, or stroke. Primary care that is comprehensive and coordinated also saves money. Patients who have a primary care doctor spend 30% less on health care than patients who don't. States with a high number of primary care doctors have lower health care costs and higher quality care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
You're listening to Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Take us with you on the go wherever you may be. Download the official Behind the Mic app today. Listen online, BehindTheMicShow.com. You can always check out our podcast as well on iHeartRadio and soon to be Spotify as well, I may add. Behind the Mic will soon be available for download on Spotify as well, so definitely be sure to check us out on there. We're on so many platforms, honestly. I mean, iTunes, you can't miss us. So we were talking a lot of NBA action before. Playoffs going strong once again tonight. Philly, big winners over Miami. Right now, Golden State and San Antonio battling it out in Game 3 as well. And New Orleans with that big lead over Portland as they play in the third quarter. Switching gears now, let's talk a little Dodgers. Dustin Nosler, he now joins us here on Behind the Mic. He covers the Dodgers for DodgersDigest.com. He's also a contributor for the Hardball Times. And he's also a co-host of the very popular Dugout Blues podcast on iTunes. Dustin, how are things going tonight?
How about you guys?
We are doing great. taking in a lot of baseball, obviously, week 3 now here of the Major League Baseball season. How would you characterize, Dustin, the first 3 weeks for this Dodgers team?
Well, if you look at their first 3 weeks of last season, they have the same record right now as they did then. They got off to a slow start, slower than I think most folks, myself included, were expecting. They've dealt with a couple injuries, but you know they're going to hit their stride eventually. I mean, they have too much talent not to be a really good team, and you know it happens. You know, teams slump. The Dodgers just decided to slump at the beginning of the season.
Hey, Dustin, I was actually, you know, watching the Dodgers. Been watching and following them a lot, and I noticed in the beginning of the season they're kind of in the NL West. They were kind of like at the bottom of the barrel in terms of placing. And now you're seeing them start to make a little run, and they're sitting right in third place right now. Should Dodgers fans be worried, or you know, hey, I know it was like this last year, but I know this is a whole new season. But in my perspective, I'm looking at the Dodgers kind of like, hey, we just want to hang around and kind of just creep our way back up. We'll eventually get back to the top. But is that what we're starting to see right now? I mean, right now they're sitting in third place in the NL West. When Arizona and Colorado's in front of them, or should Dodger fans be worried?
No, I don't think there's really much to worry about this early in the season. If this were, say, July or August, then I might be a little concerned. But you know, like I said, they've got too much talent to fail. They've got too much depth to really fail. They're going to be there in the end. They may not win 104 games again. I mean, they probably weren't going to do that even if nobody got hurt. But I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to worry right now. I mean, get back at me in a few months if they're still playing, you know, sub 500 baseball. Then maybe it's time to be worried.
I've been saying that the perfect remedy for this team was visiting a San Diego Padres team that is not projected to do much of all this year, as you know, Dustin. They go down there, they get their first series win of the season, they sweep them. They're 8-9, which is coincidentally exactly what they were at this point last year as well, through the first 3 weeks of the season. So they're right on par to where they should be, actually, after just somewhat of a weird start to the year. Is this the type of win? Just it doesn't matter sometimes who you beat. It could be the best team in baseball or the worst team. To get a series win and to get some kind of momentum going, can this springboard them to get to be more consistent? You know, put aside the injuries for a second. Just with the guys they currently have on the roster, can they build off of this, and can they start to string together some series wins coming up? Because that's what fans really want to see. They're tired of seeing this team dropping 2 out of 3. They want to see series wins, series sweeps. They know this team is talented enough to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's always better to win than lose. I mean, it's always fun to get a W. The atmosphere is different in the clubhouse. You feel different, you know, as a player, as a coach. It's never a bad thing to win, and so I don't know if it'll springboard them or if it'll just kind of maybe snap them out of their early season funk. I mean, they can only play who they have on the schedule in front of them, as the cliche goes. And the Padres, you know, they'll be good at some point, but not this season. And you know, the Dodgers got, you know, you're supposed to beat those teams. You're supposed to handle those teams, and that's what the Dodgers did these last 3 games. And hopefully it kind of, like I said, just kind of snaps them out of it.
Dustin, do you think the Dodgers kind of just play to the level of their competition right now? Are they just a team that, hey, they just coming off a World Series, 1 game away from winning it, and they're just coasting right now, just trying to fill each other out again and trying to get a rhythm back. I mean, they're about to play Friday, about to play Washington, and they're kind of have like the same type of record as the Dodgers. But is the Dodgers, you know, do you think they're just right now just starting to play to their level of their competition, or is it more than, are we looking into this too hard?
I got to apologize. I couldn't hear most of your question. I heard something about pitching.
Do you think that what I'm saying is, do you think that the Dodgers right now are playing to just the level of their competition, or, you know, they're coming up against Washington, who is kind of like have this kind of same record as what they have. They start them on Friday. Or is this something that people are looking into too hard, that, hey, they're going to be there at the end of the day, Or is this
Right.
going to become a habit of the Dodgers playing?
Sometimes teams play down to the competition, especially early in the season when they're still trying to kind of get on track. Hopefully, in Washington is not exactly lighting the world on fire either right now. So hopefully, both teams will probably get kind of up to play one another, especially since they had that pretty epic 5-game series a couple years ago. It should be a really fun series, especially kicking off with Kershaw and Scherzer tomorrow night.
Dustin Nosler joining us here on Behind the Mic, talking all things Dodgers related. As Keith mentioned before, Dustin, Washington comes to town for a 3-game set this weekend. Great pitching matchup to start tomorrow evening. Scherzer versus Kershaw. And this is a matchup that obviously is going to entice a lot of different people. And it just also gets into the conversation of the Dodgers starting pitching, which is seeing some guys become injured right now. Rich Hill was placed on the DL yesterday. He's got left middle finger inflammation. They've called up Adam Libetard from AAA, Oklahoma City. I'm a little concerned right now, to be honest with you, Dustin, about the rotation because as we talked about prior to the season, I really felt, and I still do, that they're going to need another guy, a true number 2, with Rich Hill going down, Alex Wood being up and down. Kenta Maeda hasn't pitched bad, but honestly, your best option at the moment, outside of Kershaw, is Ryu. He's given you very solid starts this year. What's your thoughts on that?
Ryu, he got off to a slow start. His first game was not great, but his last couple outings have been really good. I don't know. I mean, if he were the guy he was before shoulder surgery, then he'd be your clear-cut number 2 because he was a really underrated pitcher his first 2 seasons. Like I think we talked about before, the rotation depth's not as deep as it was in previous years. And Rich Hill's, 38, 39 years old. He's not, he's not a young guy who's able to maybe bounce back as quickly. And when he has injury issues, especially with the fingers, like he's had in the past, it's a little concerning. And Alex Wood's velocity, is kind of fluctuating. And sometimes he looks really good, even despite not hitting the velo he was at in the first half of last year. Sometimes he looks really not so great. So they will make an addition before the trade deadline, I'm sure. Depends who's available. It'll be a really good starting pitcher, I'm sure, because they've got the talent to acquire a guy like that. And I think we talked about last time, they've got Walker Buehler in the minors who might be up sooner rather than later, especially since this Rich Hill finger injury has cropped up.
Hey, Dustin, in your opinion, where does Matt Kemp lie in all this? Is he at the end of the day going to be a Dodger for the rest of the season, or do you think that he's a guy that they may part ways with maybe in the middle of the season? He was a guy that they brought back here, and he's doing okay at the bats right now. But what do you think? Where does he lie in all this, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to... I honestly didn't expect him to stick around very long after they acquired him back in January or December. And here he is, one of the top hitters on the team so far through the first 3 weeks of the season. I'm not ready to fully jump on the bandwagon yet, just because he's 33. He's got a history of injuries. And he started out hot last season as well and kind of tailed off. I know it was a different kind of circumstance, but, I think the best course of action is just kind of take what you can get what you can out of him before he probably breaks down. And if he doesn't break down, then it's just gravy, as they say.
How far away are we from seeing Turner return?
He's progressing. I think he hasn't picked up a bat yet, but there's not a real reason to rush him back either. I think we're looking at probably another 4 to 6 weeks. And if it's even longer than that, it's not the end of the world. Wrist injuries, especially for hitters who have power, they're kind of significant. And Freddie Freeman had it last year. There's Marcus Semien had surgery. It's just a varying amount of time for guys to get back from it. If it takes him 2.5 months, it takes him 2.5 months. But when he comes back, he'll be, he'll anchor that lineup, and they have missed him so far.
There's no question about that. So there's no rush to get him back. They're going to take him, nice and easy. That's as far as I'm hearing. Because we've heard different reports from different outlets. Some are maybe insinuating he could be back a lot sooner than that. Some are more along the timetables of what you're saying. But it does sound like that there really is no rush. They want him to be 100% healthy once he does return to the lineup.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense to rush him back and to either re-aggravate it or not be 100% for the rest of the season, thus sapping his power. I mean, that's the biggest thing I'd be worried about is his pop. You've got guys to hold down the fort. I mean, we saw Logan Forsythe before he went down with an injury. Max Muncy came up. He's a guy not a lot of folks know about. He came over from the A's. They signed him a minor league deal last year. Kyle Farmer's played a little third. I mean, they've got enough guys to run through third base until Turner's fully ready to come back. But I thought they'd be able to weather the storm a little better without him so far. But it was very apparent the first couple of weeks. They really did miss their best hitter.
Do you think it was a good move for the manager to put Puig to bench Puig on Wednesday's night game, and now coming up to this upcoming game? What do you think about Puig's play? Do you think that was the right thing to do in terms of going with the different outfielders out there, or should he stick with him? Because Puig is the type of guy we all know he starts off slow, but he ends up picking it up towards the end. But do you think that was a good move on his part?
Having a hard time. Were you talking about Yasiel Puig?
Yes, they benching him on Wednesday's game, and now they benched him on the final game, and now he's supposed upcoming game. Do you think that was the right move for them to bench Puig?
And you said about benching him?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just having a hard time hearing as well.
It's okay. Yeah, he didn't play. He didn't play on Wednesday's game. They benched him.
Right.
So do you think that was the correct move?
Yeah, I mean he's going to get days off. They've got plenty of outfielders to rotate through. Evidenced by they've got a couple of guys who should be on a lot of major league rosters in AAA right now. So it's probably part of trying to keep him fresh, and he's hitting the ball really hard. He's getting very unlucky early in the season, so maybe giving him a day off here and there kind of helps him clear his head and kind of hopefully snap out and start having some of those hard hit balls fall in. It's just he's suffering from bad luck right now mostly.
Sticking with the lineup, Dustin, Yasmani Grandal has been very impressive batting so far. He leads the team in average, home runs, and RBIs. Have you been surprised by his production so far?
I don't know. I mean, maybe this level of production, I might be a little surprised. I've always been a fan of his. I knew he had it in him to be this good. But yeah, he's kind of taking it to another level this season. He's a free agent after the year, so maybe there's some contract year stuff going on there. He's trying to impress, try to get a big contract when he gets on the open market from the Dodgers or from somebody else. But he's always been a very talented hitter, and it's not unexpected for him to perform early in the season before the grind of a 162-game schedule wears him down behind the plate. But, yeah, he's done a very good job basically being the anchor of the lineup without Justin Turner.
Once again, we're talking with Dustin Nosler from Dodgers Digest. Let's switch to the bullpen now. Any concerns about Kenley Jansen moving forward? He's already blown 2 saves this year. Dave Roberts says, let's pep down everybody. I got confidence in my closer. Is there anything else we should read into that?
I don't know. It's really weird. I mean, the first few games he came out and he didn't have his velocity. He said it was mechanical. He wasn't really overly concerned about it. And then recently he was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And it seems like the team doesn't really know what's going on. I don't think he's hurt. He looks okay up there. He looks a little kind of out of sync, and that does kind of point to something mechanical. I don't know how exactly they fix it other than just keep running him out there. If they have to run him out there in lower leverage situations and not, the 8th inning of a 1-run game on the road against a division rival, that might help him kind of get back to being the guy we all have known and seen over the last handful of years. it's a little concerning, but I'm confident that he's going to figure it out and get back to being the guy we know.
Well, we're confident as well because he's a good guy overall. I got to say, he always provides some good commentary for us in the press as well. So, I agree with you, Dustin. I think he has just somewhat been out of sorts. He just has to kind of get his feet under him. And I'm excited about this Washington series this weekend because I think they can really, especially with them coming home, and they can get off to a good start tomorrow with Kershaw against Scherzer. So I'm excited for it.
And Dustin, I mean, if you look at the schedule too, they got Washington for this series. Then they go in and they play against Miami. So really, they have a great chance of really running the table on these two series going into playing a rival San Francisco Giants again. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, this Washington series is going to be tough. I mean, no matter how poorly both the teams are playing, or maybe not as poorly, it's always they're the two of the 3 or 4 best teams in the National League. Despite what their records may say right now, it's going to be tough. But yeah, it'd be nice to see them kind of get fat against the Marlins because we all know we saw what happened in the offseason. They traded away all their really good players. They're just kind of trudging along right now. But the Dodgers have had problems with the Marlins in recent years. So we'll see. I mean, if they can get 4 of the next 6 games, I think that would be plenty acceptable.
Follow him at Dustin Nosler on Twitter. Once again, he's a contributor for Dodgers Digest, also for the Hardball Times, and check out his podcast, The Dugout Blues, on iTunes. Dustin, we appreciate the time.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you. There he goes once again, Dustin Nosler checking in tonight from Dodgers Digest. Always appreciate his time here on Behind the Mic. That's the latest with the Dodgers out of Los Angeles, Chavez Ravine. Again, tomorrow, they start a 3-game set at home. Nationals come to town. Kershaw versus Scherzer will not get off to a good start. He pitched really well, Keith, last Sunday when they needed the bleeding to stop, and he was the stopper. They're going to look for him to do the same again tomorrow and push that win streak to 4.
Oh, yeah, that'll be
Actually,
great.
no, excuse me, 5.
Yeah.
Because they won on Sunday, and then they swept San Diego. So you're going for 5 straight tomorrow.
Hey, I honestly like their chances in this Washington series. And, despite what that's said in terms of the Marlins, I mean, the Marlins are a completely different team than what they were last year. So them being depleted, basically, I think the Dodgers have a great chance of honestly run the table until they play against the Giants when they have to go down to San Francisco. And what a great position that will put them in terms of in the NL standings as well. So, you're talking about getting over the hurdle and really now pushing Arizona for that first, that number 1 seed. So, this is a golden opportunity for them. I think the Dodgers control their own destiny at this point in time right now. And I know you got to take it a game at a time, and I'm not talking like it's the postseason or anything like that. I'm just saying it was a little concerning for me seeing the Dodgers at the bottom of the barrel, and then they're starting to get themselves back into play. And what you want to do is when you're trying to get yourself back and you're trying to get a rhythm, you want to try to win a bulk of games in a one large sum. And I think that's their goal right now. I understand you can't win them all, but what you try to do is you try to win the bulk of them. So hopefully they can go and take care of business for these next couple of games. So we'll see.
By the way, down in Anaheim at the moment, it's 1-0 Red Sox. They're trying to sweep away the Los Angeles Angels. Get this, in this 3-game set against Boston, the Angels have scored a grand total of 1 run. Yikes.
Uh-oh.
Angels struggling at the plate right now. This Boston team is the real deal, at least so far in this first month of 2018.
You know what? I just think they just want to get out this series and just get it on. This has been a nightmare for them, this Boston series for them, And I think they know where they stand at them. But I hope, what I hope they gain from, the Angels gain from this, is that they see where they're at and what they need to work for and work towards. But I hope they also gain confidence and go through these other teams and, hey, we got to play better. We got to get better. We can get beat, but we need to win some games. I hope it doesn't shoot their confidence down and they have this drastic start to losing streak. That's what you don't want to get. That's what's concerning to me, them playing in this Boston series, is that your season can quickly turn when you lose 3 straight or when you lose 2 straight. So hopefully they can start in it because they get used to losing again. So hopefully they can get back on that winning track. But right now, I just think they just want this series to be over.
I agree, Keith. I mean, getting outscored 20-1 currently. And, yeah, to your point, if they're going to get it figured out, they need to do it sooner versus later because very, very difficult schedule coming up here in the next 10 days. Very tough. At Houston for 3 next week, and then the Yankees come in for a 3-game set next weekend. And by the way, this weekend they go to they host the Giants down in Anaheim. That's a tough stretch coming up. We'll see if they can get through it. Behind the Mic, live from Kings Cove at the Toyota Sports Center in El Segundo. Behind the Mic, back for more after this.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cool time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
We're here early before they wake up. We stay late, we stay informed, we invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
We do this not because it's our job, but because this is about our veterans' lives. This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Everybody buckle up. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom, can we get some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Every 17 minutes, Make-A-Wish makes the impossible possible. They tame dragons. They bring Saturn to Earth. They help superheroes save entire cities. They even make unicorns fly. All to give children the strength they need to fight their critical illnesses. Every wish takes muscle. Help us make sure every wish comes true. Join us at wish.org.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is Behind the Mic with Brad Dalius.
Welcome back inside the Toyota Sports Center, El Segundo. It is Kings Cove, Thursday evenings, Behind the Mic. Brad Dalius and Keith Jackson hanging out. First hour of the program was a lot of fun. We talked NBA playoffs. We were joined by Dustin Nosler from DodgersDigest.com. You got to check out his podcast, Dugout Blues, on iTunes. I mean, he does a phenomenal job. Him and the guys on there just breaking down everything, wall-to-wall, boys of blue. If you're a huge Dodgers fan, you have to check it out. It is a definite must. So once again, thanks to Dustin for calling in tonight. And we also discussed, in addition to the NBA playoff stuff, how the NFL schedule came out tonight, Keith. Already.
Yep, sir.
It's exciting. It's one of those first days you definitely look forward to in the NFL league year. And the first thing that jumped out to me, we can go through the whole thing right now. We'll talk about the Rams, the Chargers. We'll get into maybe the Eagles' schedule as well, the defending champs, where they start. And I'll begin there because they actually opened the season. As follows tradition, the NFL always usually has the defending champs open up on that Thursday night. And the same will be true in 2018. Eagles will host the Atlanta Falcons. Thursday, September 6th, at the Link in Philadelphia. It will be a rematch of the NFC divisional round game from last year.
That's going to be a great game right there. That's going to be a great game. Philadelphia, they're going to have a target on their back this year, man. A major target.
They absolutely will. And to go off of that, the reason they will, at least one of the reasons, is just how good the NFC has improved and how good it's become here.
That's true.
I mean, if you think about it, in just like 2 years or so, the NFC has gone from a conference that was really considered to be more so on the downtrodden, and now it has arguably 2 or 3 Super Bowl contenders easily on paper.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But let's just be quite frank, though. Let's just be quite frank. It also depends. Look, the Falcons, this is the problem with me with the Falcons. The problem is they're inconsistent. They start off slow, man. They start off slow in the beginning of the season. And, they've
done that a lot.
We've seen, remember all this hype about them, about playing the Patriots, and what happened there?
Yeah.
kicked their tails. You know,
that was the Fog Bowl Part 2 that night.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a little different. Look, you know, is Carson Wentz? Will he be back then?
It was very interesting because this is September 6th. So this is right at the beginning of September.
Yeah.
I don't know. You might see Nick Foles. It might be a true rematch with Nick Foles going up against Matt Ryan.
Yeah, that's true. It may be, but you know what? The Eagles did lose some really, really important pieces, you know, in terms of trades and things like that. But, you know, one thing about them, what they're going to learn is that they're going to have a huge target on their back, and everybody's going to play their A game when they play against them. That's the thing about being a Super Bowl champion. So, you know, welcome to the club, the Eagles. It's going to be I know the Atlanta Falcons right now on paper are like licking their chops and they can't wait to get a hold of you guys. But you know what game I'm really interested in wanting to see again? The Saints and the Vikings. After that, what happened?
Yes.
It's like I know that people want to see that again. You know, so we'll see. But I understand what you're saying. I know where you're coming from with that. You know, we'll see.
I don't believe the Saints have a rematch scheduled against the Vikings next year.
I don't know, what a disappointment.
I know, right? I'm looking down the schedule right now, and I don't see it. We don't see it. They'll have to match up in the postseason again.
Yeah, well, let's hope they get there.
Exactly, right? Both should. To me, I've been saying this throughout the offseason, and I'm going to continue to say it. The Saints are my team going into next season in the NFC.
I agree. I'm with you on that. They will really, let's be honest with you. I've said it on this show numerous of times, and you agreed. They were basically the better team lost that day, and they lost of a fortunate miracle play. But had they won that game, they would have been in the Super Bowl.
I continue to believe that as well. Absolutely. How talented they were. That was a once-in-a-generational type of miracle. Yep. We're not going to see that again necessarily. So, but yeah, it is too bad that these two won't match up in the regular season, but perhaps, obviously, in the postseason. We'll see. Let's take a look at the Rams schedule, because that came out today as well. The Rams 2018 schedule, as they come in to be the prolific favorites in the NFC West division by a mile, actually. San Francisco is close. They'll definitely make it competitive. But taking a look at the Rams schedule, they open up the preseason on August 9th. They take on the Ravens. They also get the Raiders, the Saints, and the Raiders as well. See, Ravens, Raiders, Saints, and the Raiders are the four opponents in the preseason for the Rams. The regular season begins on September the 10th. They will play, that is the Monday night game. They will take on the Raiders in Oakland. So I believe that is the second Monday night game of that doubleheader that they usually do on Monday night, the first Monday night of the season.
Yeah.
So that's a tough spot to open up against at Oakland, a team that is continuing to play their best football before they leave the city to head to Vegas in a couple of years. So that's a very interesting matchup with the Rams going on the road there. Then they start divisional play the next week. They host the Cardinals at the Coliseum, and then they get the Chargers after that on, I believe that's a Thursday night game.
Yeah,
against the Chargers. So they open up the season there, a couple different opponents, and the Rams will be off and running here in 2018. But this is going to be although just as talented as that team was last year, the Rams team, and as confident as they were, they're going to have that taken to a next level with Sean McVay coming back here for year 2, Jared Goff developing. We've been talking about this during the offseason here, but this will be an even more confident team than what we saw last year.
Yeah.
A team that Rams fans will be looking to start red hot right out of the gates.
Yeah, you're right. You know, look, they got a tough schedule, though. Let's just say, you know, they do have a tough schedule to me, what it looks like. But you know what? In order to be the best, you gotta beat the best. It goes back to that saying, and you got to be competitive, and what they're shooting for is to do better than what they were last year. And their preseason is not going to be an easy cakewalk either. You know, they got the Ravens, Who knows how the Ravens will be? I think the Raiders will be a much better team with the fact John Gruden's there. But then you got the Texans with Deshaun Watson, and then you got the Saints. You know, that's going to be a tough preseason, so they're going to definitely be battle-tested going into the regular season. And you know what's great about the preseason and playing the Raiders? They only have some tape on them. So be able to see some things, what they do. Not too much, but they'll be able to see some things that they do, and they go on the road, and that's great to go on the road because you know to see how you are as a road team. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited about the season. You know, the real game I really like to see is the crosstown rivalries, the Chargers and the Rams, how that game will play out.
Yes, absolutely. That's a must-go-to type of game, obviously, as they continue to kind of start this. I don't know if you want to call it a rivalry yet. You really can't because it's only been 1 year that both teams have been here in L.A., but the Rams and the Chargers trying to stoke the fire on something competitive on the field. Other notable games for the Rams here in 2018. They will host Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. That's in Week 8 at the end of October. Keith mentioned the New Orleans game. They will be at the Saints on November 4th in Week 9. Week 11 is the big international game. They'll be down in Mexico City. We were speculating last night whether or not the NFL would do another game in Mexico City after last year. Patriots and Raiders hooking up down there. It was a success. I mean, remember, they had a huge crowd down there. CBS did the game. Tony Romo was on the broadcast. That was a nice little segue for him, having ancestry down there in Mexico. So the NFL did tremendously well down there. They're back again this year. The Rams will play the Chiefs, the new-look Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. That comes in Week 11. They get the bye in Week 12. That's that's not a bad time for a bye. Actually, it's a little late, but it's not bad. It's not. You don't want it to be too early, and that's not. Week 10 through 12 is a good time to have the bye.
Yeah,
that's not too bad. So Week 12 is the bye. Week 13, they're at Detroit taking on Matt Patricia and the Lions. They'll be there. And Week 15, that's a big matchup. It's a rematch of last year's end of the regular season game against the Eagles. Yeah. That's going to be Sunday Night Football, Week 15, around Christmas time, actually, in December. That was the game, obviously, last year when those two played over at the Coliseum, in which Carson Wentz went down with the ACL. So perhaps at that point in time, I would imagine the Eagles would expect to have Carson Wentz back under center. And then they finish off the regular season, the Rams do, hosting Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers. That's on December the 30th, Week 17, home matchup.
Yeah, that's actually the game I'm actually looking forward to seeing because they're going to go, look, if you look at their schedule, look at these games in the beginning. Like, you got the Chargers, you got the Vikings. Like, these are not winnable games. I mean, they're going to be tough games. Chargers, Vikings, going to Seattle. You don't know how the Broncos are going to be this year. They could be a better team than what they were last year. They got a new quarterback, as we all know.
Case Keenum. That's true. That's true. That is very interesting.
And then they go and play the 49ers, and you know what Jimmy Garoppolo did over there. And in the addition to Richard Sherman, who's revamped his career, is going to revamp his career. Exciting. They picked up some good new pieces over there. And then you got the Packers, and then the Saints. I mean, that's a very tough schedule.
Absolutely. This is tough.
That can make or break your season, too.
Yeah, it really could. It will be key to get off to a quick start. There's no question. And it's just funny. I mean, a couple of years ago, those San Francisco Rams matchups were, you wouldn't blink twice at them. And now those are going to be monster matchups this year, and will probably have big implications on who wins the division ultimately. But yeah, you're right, Keith. First time the Rams play the Niners is in Week 7. That's at San Fran. That's on Sunday night, end of October. That'll be a big one, obviously. And then, like I said before, they will finish out the regular season at home against the Niners at the end of December. What do you think of the Rams schedule? 213-261-7491. Would love to get your thoughts. 213-261-7491. You got Chicago in there as well, Week 14. You figure that's probably going to be a victory. Although they have a young quarterback too in Mitchell Trubisky. Year number 2 for him. That's the thing. There's a lot of new, if it's not a new face in a new place, it's to a young quarterback who's either entering a second year across, not just the NFC, but in the AFC as well. As you mentioned, Denver before, with Keenum coming over from Minnesota. And, yeah, we figure Seattle's probably going to take a step back this year.
Yeah. They'll play a step back, but you know what? I think
they still have a great quarterback.
They have a great quarterback, but they're going to be tough at home.
Yeah.
They typically always are, and they typically play the Rams tough every year. So I'm not expecting that to go to do it, to play any different.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is still a lot of talented guys there. Obviously, they still have Carroll, Wilson, like we said, is still the quarterback. They could definitely maybe play spoiler at points of times in the season. If not, they're going to be competitive for the most part. I don't think there's any question about that. By the way, in the NBA, quick update, Golden State is on top of San Antonio by 9 as they come up on about 4.5 to play in Game 3. So that's the Rams' schedule. We both agree it is difficult. It is challenging. They will have their work cut out for them as they begin the 2018 season. Let's look at the Chargers' schedule now, Keith. And let's see what they have as they get set to take on their whole competition coming up.
Before we even jump to the Chargers, I just want to say, before we get to their schedule, my thing about the Chargers this year is to see how they start off.
Yes.
Do they do a jump start? Do they do a jump start like they did last? Look, they ran the table towards the end of the season. They started off, they played well towards the end of the season. And do they keep that rolling? And that's the question, is can they keep that momentum from last season rolling this season? And so, I'm hoping that the Chargers can get a jump start early this year and make a good push. I mean, you got Phillip Rivers going. He's on the downside of his career, towards the end of his career. Maybe he got another year or two, maybe 2 left. Same thing with Tom Brady and those guys. So I'm really interested to see how these guys come out this season. What type of tone do they set? And so, getting into their schedule. That's what I'm hoping that we can see from the Chargers this year.
They've been the ultimate tease, I got to tell you. Like you said, how they started out so slow, historically slow last year, ran the table, like you said, for a long period of time, and then laid an egg, if you remember, towards the end of the regular season at Kansas City on, I don't forget if it was like a Monday night or Thursday night game. They laid a complete egg, extremely disappointing, missed out on the postseason. It was a wave, man, last year of a ride for that Chargers team. We were talking about Anthony Lynn maybe being fired right off the bat.
Exactly.
So if you remember me, I was giving him somewhat of a vote of confidence for maybe consideration for Coach of the Year after they were turning it around, and maybe they would be able to make the postseason, the first team ever, after starting 0-4 or 0-5. And then at the end, again, just laying an egg against Kansas City, and then they were really out of it at that point in time. So, yeah, this is going to be a very interesting season for them, no doubt. They begin it week 1 at home against Kansas City. That's a CBS game. Then week 2, they travel to Buffalo. Week 3 is that matchup against the Rams, as we talked about before. That's on September the 23rd. And then they go back-to-back divisional games. The following week, they host the Niners. That will be a tough game for them. There's no question about that, with San Fran being a more complete team now. Like you said, Sherman's coming over there. We know about Garoppolo and the other talented guys they have on the team as well. They're no doubt a franchise that's on the rise at the moment. Week 5 for the Chargers, they will take on the Raiders. That's October the 7th. Then they go to Cleveland, at home against Tennessee. They're at Seattle for Week 9. Week 10, November the 11th, they're at the Raiders. And then on Week 11, they will host the Denver Broncos. So that first part of the schedule, honestly, is not too bad outside of that divisional matchup, the back-to-back against the Rams and the Niners, Week 3 and 4. If they can get through the first, let's go back to what we were saying before, if they get off to a good start through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, they really could set themselves up, because they have that stretch where they play Cleveland, who's just trying to win a game, and Tennessee, who is somewhat of a wild card, new head coach, obviously. Still have Marcus Mariota. There's a lot of different New England Patriots who are down there now, as we were talking about before tonight's show. So they're an interesting team. Then at Seattle. So this is, if the Chargers are for real, and if they're a team who's able to get off to a good start, they can make some strides here in the first half of the season. They'll need to if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they to me, this is comparable to the Angels, where they have to make the postseason.
Yeah, they have to this year. I mean, they haven't been there in a while, and they had their momentum. They had a great momentum going towards the end of the season, this past season. So hopefully, what we can see is a Chargers team that's really comes out there ready to play, and they don't have any kicking problems. Remember, they had the kicking problems in the beginning, and then Casey Keenum was coming back. Not Casey Keenum, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was coming. He was coming off an injury, and he came back, and so hopefully he is free from injury this year, and they can do some damage, man. Because I want to see. You know what? I don't want to. They play the Patriots, and they always play the Patriots tough if they're in the. Typically the Chargers play the Patriots tough. But with that said, you got to see Phillip Rivers in the playoffs, man. You want to see your top 5 Pro Bowl quarterbacks.
It might be his last shot at it.
Yeah,
it probably is. If they do make the playoffs. In fact, if they make the playoffs, if they have a great season, Keith, and they make a deep playoff run, he may retire.
Yeah, I believe so. I think he probably would. He's been there for a while, and I can see that happening. But they got to give him some protection this year. I hope that drafts coming up that they can give him some protection this year, that this upcoming season. Because that's what really going to last these quarterbacks is to stay longer in the league. Less sacks. So hopefully they can give him some protection that's needed, so he can be able to do what he does best. And he throws the ball. He's a great thrower. That sidearm throw he throws, it looks ugly, but
it does.
Man, he's very accurate.
It's somewhat equivalent of Ingram's shot with the Lakers that we saw last couple of nights of the regular season. It wasn't pretty, but it did get the job done there for a period of time.
Exactly.
Other notable games for the Chargers in 2018, they're at Pittsburgh in Week 13. That'll be a tough one, obviously. They host Baltimore in Week 16, and then they close out the regular season at Denver. Man, they've had a tough time in Denver over the last couple of years. They have not been able to win. You mentioned the kicking problems last year. They lost that game in Denver on opening night last year due to some kicking issues.
Yeah.
So they got to get that situated, obviously, here once the new season begins. But the Chargers' schedule is easier than the Rams based off of 2017.
It definitely
it really
easier. They do got a tough road game. They got to go play against the Steelers, which I am really interested in seeing them play. And then at the time they play, that's in December, so it could be snowing out there. So, that's something that comes into play there. And then, you know what else I'm interested in trying to find out is these Ravens, how the Ravens are going to do.
Yes.
They're going to play the Ravens. Ravens is another team that's kind of been on the fence just like the Chargers. And you're hoping that they can turn it around as well. So, those two teams are going to go head-to-head with each other. That may be a good matchup. Phillip Rivers versus Joe Flacco. That's something I would like to see.
Absolutely. And Joe Flacco's a quarterback that I don't want to say it's a make it or break it year for him because he won his Super Bowl already, but we haven't seen Joe Flacco. He continues to live off reputation for that Super Bowl win a couple years ago. Yeah. Since then, he hasn't done anything, Keith. Nothing. So this is going to be a big year for Baltimore. They're a bit of a wild card. We don't know what to really expect from them. It's going to be fascinating to see. The toughest game, like you said, for the Chargers has got to be, at least right now on paper, at Pittsburgh, obviously towards the end of the regular season. Because Pittsburgh, on paper, to me, has had the best roster in the league for the past 2-3 years. But obviously we don't play games on paper.
Exactly.
So,
and in injuries, you just never know.
That's true. So there you have it. The schedules for the Rams and for the Chargers 2018 freshly released tonight. What do you think about them? 213-261-7491. 213-261-7491.
You know what I'm also looking forward to seeing this year is the Cleveland Browns. You know what they pick up. What they pick up is number one is, you know, we had this conversation off the air, and I'm bringing it up again, and I'm just gonna say they gotta go for Saquon Barkley first pick. I think they will have. There's 3 great quarterbacks. They got a number 4 pick, I think, after that. The number 3 pick after that, number 3 or 4 pick. So they're going to have a quarterback they can get behind that, whoever they want. But I think the best situation for them is to go after Saquon Barkley. And look, the Cleveland Browns they're not going to be this sorry team this year. They're coming back. I really don't think so. They got Jarvis Landry. They have Tyrod Taylor. They've gotten better on the D.
You love
Tyrod Taylor. Everybody's all Tyrod because he played against. No, Tyrod Taylor's a decent quarterback. Watch and see. He's better than what they've been at the Cleveland Browns. It's a better spotlight, and I think he's going to do a great job. And you know, look, they got a great defense. They got to put some great pieces. They're gonna be a tough team.
Well, they're gonna need all those guys and probably some more because they open up against Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
Then they go to New Orleans.
Ooh.
Pittsburgh, New Orleans to kick things off week 1 and week 2. That's as tough as it gets. They're at the Raiders in week 4. They host Baltimore. Then they host the Chargers after that. This is still going to be really tough, Keith, for them. I'm telling you, just because if we go back to last year and just compare to where they were at, obviously they've gotten better players. You mentioned Jarvis Landry. They're going to get better here in the draft. But depending on how quick they can get everything together and in place, it's still going to be tough because if I just go down the list, there's not many teams that they're better at the moment.
Yeah, they do have a tough schedule.
It's tough.
They have a very tough schedule. But
Carolina in there at home in the regular season. The Falcons at Tampa Bay, who should be improved with Jameis Winston.
They should be.
If he can, actually sit still and keep his head on right.
Yeah.
So Cleveland, they're just trying to win a game, number one. And they're just trying to win a game. They don't win any games
last year.
So
what's your prediction?
For Cleveland?
How many games they win?
As I look down the schedule here for them, so I Pittsburgh, that's a loss. New Orleans, that's a loss. The Jets at home in week 3. I think that's where the first win comes. I think they beat the Jets because the Jets don't have a quarterback yet either. They're going to have one here in the draft. They're going to get somebody. But still, they're not too much better than Cleveland at the moment. I think that's where it comes. I think they get that first win in week 3. They're at the Raiders. I can't see them winning there. That's too tough. Baltimore is still better than them. The Chargers better beat them. You're going to have a lot of upset Charger fans out here. At Tampa Bay, I mean, Tampa Bay was not very good last year. They were one of the big disappointments in 2017. But I still think that the Bucs are better than the Browns at the moment. As I go down towards the end of the schedule, they play the Bengals, who this year really might be the bottom might drop out for Cincy this year, with Marvin Lewis back for his 50th year as head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Man, what's going on? I don't know what Marvin Lewis has on the manager over there in Cincinnati, but really, it's time for him to go.
It's beyond time. I look at a 2-14 team.
Wow.
I think they improve. I think they get 2 wins this year, which would be a big improvement from last year.
It would be. It would be. I'm going with 4.
Okay. That would be really good.
That would be. But let me ask you this, even some other notable things. Let's look at the New England Patriots as their schedule this year.
Let's.
You got the Texans, you got the Jaguars. The Texans is going to be a tough game for them. They got Deshaun Watson, who's going to come back, and he gave them a tough game before. You got the Jaguars, who, to me, is the second best team in the AFC.
A rematch.
Yes.
From the title game last year.
Matt Patricia. You go to Matt Patricia over there, a former Patriots defensive coordinator. You're going to play
intriguing.
against the Lions. That's intriguing to watch. Then you got the Dolphins. Tannehill's coming back. You got the Colts, where you don't know what's going to happen with Andrew Luck this year. And then you got the Chiefs. And then the Bears, the Bills, the Packers, which is the keynote game. You want to see that Aaron Rodgers and Brady go at it. And the Titans, that's another game I definitely want to see, with the simple fact you got Deion Lewis over there now with the Titans, and you got Malcolm Butler over there. And so it's going to be interesting to see some of these games. The Steelers, who are going to go after, they got to go to the Steelers this time, the Vikings, Dolphins. So their schedule, when you look at their schedule, what grade do you give their schedule?
Based on difficulty?
Yeah.
I'm going to say a B-. Because you have talented teams here, but for some of these teams, I think they're past their prime. Like, for example, Green Bay. That was a great game a couple years ago when the Patriots went to Lambeau.
Yeah.
That was a really good game. Remember that? Darrelle Revis was there at the time. That was the year the Patriots won the Super Bowl in Arizona. That was a great one. To me, the Packers are a shell of themselves as an organization since then. They're just living off of Aaron Rodgers, to be honest, at this point.
That's true.
I think that Green Bay will take a step back. To me, that matchup is more built on reputation of the Packers than how good they're going to be in 2018. But nonetheless, Rodgers is still there, so it's compelling. People will go to see that game. Overall, though, this schedule to me is very favorable, especially with a veteran team who still has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. We all know it's been well documented, the inner turmoil, quote-unquote, that's going on with the Patriots at the moment. I continue to believe once they lace it up and tee it up for the new season, that stuff will go away. I don't think that's going to follow them into the 2018 campaign. But, yeah, this right off the bat, Houston at home, Deshaun Watson, like you said, is coming back. That's a very intriguing matchup. But at the end of the day, Houston has not really proven yet that they can beat this Patriots team. In fact, the Patriots have really owned them in the last couple of seasons. So I think the Patriots obviously have to be favored in that game. Week 2, though, that's a dandy down in Jacksonville. As I said, rematch of the AFC title game from last year. Jacksonville very easily could have won that, as we know. They let it slip out of their hands.
That's going to be a tough game.
It will be. And not to mention the fact now that Blake Bortles has the complete confidence in the backing of the entire organization now with the contract extension. So he is their guy to go forward. I can't wait for that one in week 2. Good job by the schedule makers to put that right away versus putting it at the end of the season. I think that's a very, very appealing matchup. And then obviously at the Lions in week 3, Matt Patricia, obviously that's very fascinating. Matthew Stafford's got a lot to prove. That team's underachieved now for a very, very long time in Detroit. There's going to be pressure on Patricia to win there and win quickly. We'll see. Miami, Tannehill's coming back. I don't really think Ryan Tannehill, I wasn't big on him from day one. Coming back from the injury, we don't know how healthy he's going to be right away. Danny Amendola goes down there. Danny Amendola is going to be in a different type of situation this year than he has been in the past. He'll catch a lot of balls, but he will somewhat fade away into the Miami humidity, I would tend to think here, as he starts his career down there. And then Indy coming up in week 5. The Colts, again, it's all about Andrew Luck, and I just don't know. I don't know how that shoulder is going to hold up. He still hasn't thrown a football yet, as I think you mentioned before. That's been well documented, so we don't know about them. Kansas City, I think they've kind of missed their opportunity. Alex Smith is now gone. He's in Washington. They begin the Patrick Mahomes era. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him, Keith, to come out and to basically be inserted into Andy Reid's offense, and people think he's going to light it up right away. I think there's a lot of unrealistic expectations for him. I know he was somewhat highly regarded coming out of college, and that's why they moved up to draft him a few years ago now, but I don't expect him to come out and look as good as Deshaun Watson. I'll put it to you that way. Deshaun Watson is a very special quarterback. I believe he has a long NFL career ahead of him. Patrick Mahomes, he could maybe get to that point, but we have yet to see it. And to think he's going to come out and just replicate what Watson did last year before he went down being injured, I think is a little bit too unrealistic. So Kansas City and New England in Week 6. You have to like New England. Really, the tough games are, to sum it up, this is for New England. Jacksonville. I'll put Houston in there as well just because of Watson coming back, and that'll be tough. So we'll go Houston, Jacksonville. At Tennessee, I think is very difficult because, as you mentioned, all the former New England Patriots, a lot of them now who are down there, not to mention Vrabel is the new head coach with Tennessee, former Patriot. So there's going to be a lot of familiarity, kind of similar to Houston with Romeo Crennel and when Vrabel was down there as an assistant head coach. Excuse me. There became to be a lot of familiarity. You're going to get that now with Tennessee, I believe. So that will be a tough game on the road for the Patriots. They get the bye in Week 11. That's a good bye week for them. And then the second half of the schedule, it's just at Pittsburgh. I think that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Minnesota at home, I think they take care of business on that one. If it would have been at Minnesota, that'd be... Yeah, if it was at Minnesota, it would have been tougher. Since it's at home, that's going to be a little bit easier for them. Yeah, down the stretch, it's at Pittsburgh. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That is a tough one. And I see they scheduled back-to-back road games, and 3 out of 4 actually... Yeah, they did this last year for New England. They scheduled like 3 out of 4 road games during a span there and trying to make the schedule a little more difficult for them down the stretch. So that's an interesting point of emphasis there. But, yeah, I once again, this is shaping up to be a 12-4, 13-3 New England Patriots season. Until we see otherwise, until we see a drop-off of production from Brady, it's hard to go against that.
Well, I'm excited about the preseason, Brad. You got the Eagles, the Panthers, and the Giants. Those will be 3 great games
for the Patriots.
I mean, those will be some great preseason games, and they're going to play. And you know they're going to go. They're going to play tough against the Eagles. They don't. You know they may play Brady may play 2 quarters.
He might. That's in week 2. So yeah, you don't know. He very well might.
Yeah.
The games in New England as well. Yeah. They'll be fired up for that, even though it's the preseason.
Yeah, and then you got the Panthers, who typically give Patriots problems every year.
I gotta say, you're right, Keith. I gotta say that's a very compelling preseason schedule. For everyone gets up for week 1 of the preseason because we haven't seen football. We're just dying for football. And then we tend to fade away from it once week 2 and week 3 comes around. And week 4, we're just over it, obviously. We want the season to begin. But this is a compelling 4-game schedule here in the preseason. It's it'll get people glued to the television, at least. You can say that as they begin the 2018 campaign to try and make it to 3 straight Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah. You know who else I'm interested in? The fact that Dez Bryant is gone from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
What happens to them now, and what is their schedule coming into play? I mean, look, they got the Panthers, they got the Giants, Seahawks, Lions, Texans, Jaguars, the Redskins, the Titans, Eagles, Falcons, Saints, Tampa Bay, and they play the Giants at the end of the season. Man, they got a tough schedule.
That is tough, especially for a Cowboys team that is always in limbo. You'll hear talk in June and July. Jerry Jones will come out, and you'll see on paper that, whoa, this team's got a lot of talent. It could be a Super Bowl team. We've heard that now for 5 to 10 years.
You have.
We've heard that so many times. They always win the Super Bowl in July. Can they actually win these games in the regular season? I mean, they were 13-3 2 years ago. That great rookie campaign from Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Can they get back to those ways this year? It just remains to be seen. They brought back Jason Garrett. He was on the hot seat for maybe a period of time last year. Or at least there was discussion that maybe
he's not going anywhere.
He's Jerry Jones' guy.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's like Marvin Lewis is over there with the Cincinnati Bengals. He's not going anywhere. But you're correct. And then their schedule. I mean, they got probably one of the toughest schedules.
Yeah, this is tough. As I look down, it is difficult. And really the big question right off the bat is, because the Eagles is now the benchmark in that division, can they compete with Philly?
Yes.
That is the big thing. That was the question. Because if you can't compete with Philly, you've got no shot in coming out of that division at all.
Yeah, that's going to be very tough for them. I mean, look, they may not even get past. I'm gonna say the Lions is gonna be a tough game for them.
Yeah,
you know, the Lions will be a tough game. The games that you would think they will win, you know, like
they usually lose.
Yeah, they lose. They got the Colts. They go to the Colts, but it's just going to be interesting to see how this all plays out for them. And then you look over and you see the Saints and stuff, and you're saying, hey, I'm still, like you said, we're all both picking them to be our NFC champions this year. My thing is with them is how's Drew how is I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but how is Drew Brees going to hold up?
I think
he's going to
hold
up this season, you know? Then again, Sean Payton does put him in a great situation every time, and he gets the most out of his players. But I'm just interested to see how he holds up this year, and the line, what type of protection they give him. But for the most part, their schedule's is going to be pretty tough as well. So, we'll see. I think they got a great chance of making it all the way this year.
Yeah, I do too. I've been high on them ever since they lost Minnesota Miracle last year, as we've been talking about on Behind the Mic last couple of months. They have an opportunity really to do something special here. Drew Brees, age 39. He will turn 40 next January. I still think he's got a lot in him. Yeah. A lot in him. You saw that last year. They have finally built a defense that can back up that terrific offense they've had down there for so long. They have that. They've rebuilt the offensive line. Both lines, actually, both on offense and defense. This is a solid football team that's very fundamentally sound. We saw that last year. You're not going to see a crazy mistake like you did last year again this year in the playoff game.
Yeah, I can't.
And it's a veteran. Yeah, and it's a veteran team. So they have the coach, they have the quarterback in place. That's what you need, and they have so many pieces around them now. When I look down the schedule, I expect them to start fast. They've started slow in recent years. Last year, I believe they started 0-2, and then they quickly got in the win column after that. I look for them to start a lot quicker this year. I think they come out and they go, so they go Tampa Bay out of the gates, and they host Cleveland, at Atlanta, at the Giants. I believe they come out 4-0.
Okay, let's ask you this. Who is your Final Four NFC? Who's your Final Four going for next season in terms of who's the favorite? Who's the two favorites in NFC?
That's tough. I definitely have the Saints, obviously. And I'm going to give it to the Eagles at the moment. Okay. I'll give it to the Eagles at the moment over the Rams, although the Rams are closing fast. The Eagles beat the Rams last year. I have to see it this year to put the Rams. I think the Rams are the third best team right now.
Okay.
In the NFC. So okay. I go Saints, Eagles.
And then in the AFC, who's your two favorites?
So I go New England. Still a lot of talent there. Brady has shown no signs of slowing down. He just played one of the best Super Bowls from any quarterback we've ever seen ever. Julian Edelman comes back on the offense. Dante Hightower comes back on the defense. They're still number one. Jacksonville, though, is closing as well as a close second. They're right there. If Blake Bortles can just be a little bit more consistent, they could be really dangerous in 2018. So I go New England 1 in the AFC. Jacksonville's 2. Pittsburgh's 3, but I mean, man, if Pittsburgh could just show us something one of these years, they could easily jump up to number 1, even surpassing the Patriots.
Yeah, they definitely can. If they, but it's just they have so many problems just off the field. The good thing about this season, upcoming season, they kept everybody. Everybody's back.
That's true.
Know? So that would help, but I can't see them. I can't see them passing Jacksonville. I cannot. I will go with Jacksonville. I'll do this. I'm going to shock you on this one. I'm going to go with Jacksonville 1, Patriots 2.
Okay. Based off of?
I'm going based off the fact that Patriots did lose some key players this year. And we just got to see what's going on next. They did pick up Cardell Peterson from the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
But he really hasn't really shown much. He's a great talent. He reminds me of Martavius Bryant.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair comparison.
And he's like a very good player, and he can be spectacular, but you don't see that from him. He has all the potential in the world, but you just don't see that. It never comes out. So I'm going to go with them at number 2, Patriots at number 2. And then I'm going to go with the Saints at number 1, and I'm going to go with Carolina.
As number 2?
Yes. It's just something about Cam Newton, and they got Christian McCaffrey over there. They got a great Greg Olsen. They got the big receiver over there. Not Kelvin Benjamin. He went over to Buffalo. But they got a great. What I'm getting at is they got a great core over there in Carolina. So I think I'm a believer in Cam Newton. I think he's a great quarterback for their team, and he gets better. And I'm just hoping that he does it this year. So I'm going with it. They got Funches, Darren Funches.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. They got him. Torrey Smith also comes over from the Eagles.
Devin Funches, So they got some players over there. So I'm going with Carolina at number 2.
That's very interesting. No one's really talking about them right now. And they're a team who definitely underachieved a bit last year. They're due to make a run here because the last 2 years now they've missed the postseason, I believe. Yeah. So they're obviously trying to get back to their ways when they made it to the Super Bowl a few years ago against Denver. And we'll see if they can do it. They have a lot of players here, like you were saying before, Keith, that besides Newton and besides Christian McCaffrey are just not household names for the most part. Yeah. Everyone knows Greg Olsen at this point, the tight end there, and people know Torrey Smith from Philadelphia. But other than that, they have a lot of unknowns. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of muster that together into a big team effort this season and maybe get back to an 11-5, maybe a 12-4 type of record. That's this type of season they really need to be successful and to get where they want to go. Not to mention that NFC South, which continues to be a stacked division.
Yeah. Great
quarterbacks. Again, Tampa Bay should be improved this year, you would think. They can really only go up from last year. So that is with New Orleans, obviously, and the Falcons, that continues to be very, very difficult. Which team do you think has the most pressure on them right now? At this point in the offseason, schedule's coming out today, NFL draft next week down in Dallas. Who maybe has pressure to win now? They have to win in 2018.
It's going to be very tough. It's going to be very tough, but you know what I'm going to go with? I'm going with the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have the most pressure because of the fact that they got to get to the playoffs. They got Phillip. They got a great quarterback who's at the end of his career, and you want to see him back in there. And they didn't just get there. They couldn't get over the hump last year.
Yep.
They're a game short, and so I think you got to go with the Chargers, man. I think it's Chargers are the team that you have to see. They have to win now.
Oh, I totally agree. Especially out here in Los Angeles, in this market, there's no question about that. I don't know if it's being viewed as that from a national perspective. If it's not, it should be. Just because of the slow starts, obviously, as we've talked about here on Behind the Mic, and their inability to break through with the quarterback who has been consistently good now for a very long time out here. They need the team around him. And they've built up the defense now, too. Joey Bosa, he's had a good first couple of years here with the Chargers. They're going to need that plus a lot more from him on the defensive side as they begin this new season. But, yeah, I like that one. I think that's big. I think the Eagles have a lot of pressure on them just because of how good the NFC has become now with so many young quarterbacks in that conference and so many improved teams. They're going to have one of the toughest roads to repeat. Not only repeat, but just get out of their own conference that we've seen maybe in a long time.
Yeah.
It is vastly, vastly improved.
I'll say this, though. But the team that has the quarterback that has the most pressure on him this year is going to be, it's in between two of them. I'm going with Jameis Winston, and I'm going with Carson Wentz. And I'm going with Carson Wentz because, say what you want, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. And anything less than Carson Wentz can't get to that point, then they're going to chastise Carson Wentz as not getting there. It's not winning at all. And for Jameis Winston, I think it's more of like, this is their short instinct. They invested in you. You're your franchise. You've been the franchise quarterback. And this year, you really have to win. You have to take this team to the postseason. If you can't do that, then I think he's going to end up being, man, I'll be honest with you, I think he's going to end up being a backup quarterback in the NFL.
Carson Wentz.
No, Jameis Winston.
Oh, Winston, yeah.
If Carson wins, I'm saying if Carson wins, can't get him over him, get him to the dance and win it, then he's going to be chastised at the fact that he couldn't get them to the Super Bowl and win it. And then for
Winston,
for Jameis Winston, I think Jameis Winston, if he does not succeed this year, not get to the playoffs, then he's going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL at the end of the day.
Wow. I can't say I necessarily disagree with it. There is a lot of pressure, obviously, and Tampa Bay could easily, if they bomb again this year, they're going to go in a different direction at quarterback. They're going to at least explore that. You know, they would look towards that in next year's draft if that is the case. Yeah, he really needs to get his act together. And it's really disappointing, too, because he's had such a good position for himself to be in for him to succeed. I mean, he gets drafted by a team that's not that far away from Florida State. Things are really set up for him to be successful.
Nope.
And he just hasn't been able to do it because he hasn't been disciplined enough. That has to change, obviously, this year.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, again, yeah, this is interesting. The NFL schedule coming out tonight, a lot of different games. The Chargers play in London. That's going to be interesting. And you have the Rams, obviously, playing in Mexico City in 2018. So both LA teams will be a part of the international series. I want to say it's 3 games in London next year, Keith, and then you get the 1 game in Mexico City. So 4 as part of the international series for the NFL. And the London games are a little tough to get up for, especially on the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's a little bit early.
Yeah.
But the Mexico City game was good.
We wake up in the morning, you're like they're in the fourth quarter. It's like 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning.
It's crazy.
It's like, geez.
Yeah, it's mad early. There's no doubt about that. The Mexico City game, though, I thought was really good last year.
It was really cool.
It was interesting. It was different. I thought they hit it out of the park on their promotion of it and how everything kind of just fell into place. It worked out really well for it. So looking forward to that as we move towards next season in the National Football League. We're coming up close towards the end of the show. I do want to touch on Brandon Marshall. Obviously, he was released by the Giants. He failed a physical, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. We had talked about this off the air the other day, Keith, and how maybe potentially you would see Marshall, Odell Beckham Jr., and Dez Bryant on the same team, a 3-headed monster of such there, and that's not going to happen, obviously. Brandon Marshall, at this point in time, maybe he signs a 1-year deal somewhere with somebody, but, I mean, number one, a failed physical is not good. That's not good. He's got to get everything checked out there with his health and going in the right direction. But 2, from a football perspective, I don't know how much he has to give at this point in time. There's only so many teams that he can come on with. I think about New England, for instance. I don't think he would be able to come on there. Too difficult of a playbook to grasp. I don't know if he would be a fit there. Not that he couldn't grasp it, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Look at Reggie Wayne.
It would not be a bad choice, though. I mean, the Patriots do need a big receiver. And they don't necessarily need a big receiver for separation purposes, to get you separation downfield. I mean, they lost the fastest receiver in the game. I mean, right now, giving up Brandon Cooks. But for someone that Brady can drive him down the end zone, I think that, another big receiver would help Gronkowski and lead away, some of that pressure that someone like a Brandon Marshall or Dez Bryant will work in the red zone situations. not necessarily downfield, but he's at the older. He's older now, but I think it will work for those purposes alone. So I think they're going to use their downhill receivers, Cardell Peterson. That's what they're going to use as their downhill receiver. But he's not the fastest receiver in the league.
So, no, he's not.
So that's what I would go off of. But I think a great place for Brandon Marshall would be, well, look, the Cowboys need a big receiver, and maybe they'll go that direction. Who knows? There's a lot of teams that who else will be great to see him in is coming right to
the Rams.
Rams will be okay. They do need a big receiver, but it's coming to me right now. The team that I think needs him probably the most, needs another big receiver, would be. Jesus, I'm going to say the Packers.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean, Rodgers needs all the help he can get at this point in time. He could fit in there. I could maybe see that. I don't know. I mean,
or the tell of his career. Well, hell, the coach just go ahead and give him a shot.
Yeah, might as well. Might as well. It just depends what if he wants to continue to play. I think that's first and foremost. Obviously, it's an interesting storyline to focus on here as we go into OTAs pretty soon.
Yeah.
Final thoughts tonight, Keith. Final thoughts of the week as we wrap up this show.
My final thoughts is going to go to, we talked about this earlier. In the sports world, everything has been, everything, you got the NBA playoffs going on. You got, baseball, the hockey and stuff like that. I'm not going to dog you Kings. Hopefully the Kings get back to normal. But my final thoughts is going to be to Greg Popovich and his family. Mm-hmm. As we all know, his wife Erin Popovich died at the age of 67 yesterday, and it shook up the whole NBA world. I don't think not the whole NBA world, but I think everyone, because everybody knows the type of guy Greg Popovich is, and he's a great guy. He speaks his mind. He's everybody in the league cares about him and who he is as a person, and you just hate to see that happen to someone like him. I just want to say my condolences to Greg Popovich and his family. You see the Spurs out here playing their hearts out for him, and while he's at home and he's mourning with his family. But I just hope that everyone in the NBA world, which I know they will be there for him, and that he would get back and get back in the swing of things. Not soon. I think he needs to just take his time. Take his time and get through it. And so, but my final thoughts are going to go and say, my condolences to Greg Popovich and his family.
Well put. And we talked about, obviously, Pop's wife passing away last night, and a tough spot for the Spurs. Like you said, though, Keith, they're playing their hearts out at the moment, trailing the Warriors 105-88 in Game 3. I mentioned at the top, Lance Armstrong. They finally settled this today. This is a long time coming, Keith, for this one. Basically, the United States government is ordering Armstrong to pay $5 million in a settlement, basically for all of their sponsoring of him, and through the United States Postal Service, all of his Tour de France runs.
$5 million, that's it for him?
That's it for him, yeah. I know, right? He got off pretty light on that end of things. This one was about to go to trial next week, actually, starting on May 7th if a settlement wasn't reached. They just did it today. Again, $5 million settlement with the federal government in that whistleblower lawsuit that could have sought, like you said, could have been $100 million in damages from Lance Armstrong, who was stripped of all those Tour de France victories after admitting, of course, that he indeed did take performance-enhancing drugs through much of his career. So this, to me, is, Lance Armstrong really has turned into one of the biggest frauds in the history of sports, and this kind of puts somewhat of a cap to this era, and really disappointment from ever since he admitted to Oprah several years ago in his interview with her that he did, in fact, take part in doping here throughout the sport of cycling. So this kind of finally puts a cap on it in a sense. But yeah, this is really disappointing, and for a lot of people who partake in biking or cycling on a regular basis too. And even with Floyd Landis, part of the team there for a period of time with the Tour de France team with Lance Armstrong back in the day. So yeah, again, this kind of puts an end to it. And also going off of this, a similar. A judge is ordering the Eli Manning, the memorabilia case. They're ordering that to trial, actually, next week. So that one's going forward as well. So a lot of different things to keep an eye on here as far as the criminal justice system is concerned, and different lawsuits with former players in different sports and things like that. So some points of note here as we close out this week here on Behind the Mic. Again, Golden State on top of San Antonio now, 110-95. Coming up on the end of that one, Golden State is about to go up 3-0. That series is on the cusp of being over.
And red alert, Sean Livingston just went into the locker room off that Patty Mills steal. He hurt himself, so hopefully he's going to be okay. That's something that's why you want to get rid of this series. And the last thing is for me, guys, go out there, you boxing fans or whoever, great fight coming up tomorrow on this weekend, Adrian Broner versus Justin Vargas. Justin Vargas is a Money Team signee, and Adrian Broner he has his own promotions, and he's very upset with Team Money Mayweather's team and things like that. He's come out in the media multiple times and talked about Floyd and his team, and they don't care about him, all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Bottom line is he's fighting a Money Team fighter, and we're hoping Adrian Broner can do something. He's been nothing but talk for the last couple for a while, and hopefully he can get himself back on track. But if he doesn't, that Justin Vargas is going to be a tough fight for him. If he doesn't, this could be the last of Adrian Broner if he loses this fight.
Pelicans beat Portland tonight, 119-102. Blowout city down there in the Big Easy. Philly all over Miami in that fourth quarter once again, 128-108. How about it? All 3 games tonight, all blowouts across the NBA. Boston up 4-2 over the Angels right now as they play in the top of the 6th. Dodgers, after an off day today, they're back in action tomorrow at home as they open up a 3-game set against those Washington Nationals. Kershaw versus Max Scherzer. Should be a great weekend of sports. I mean, my gosh, from NBA to Major League Baseball to the NHL playoffs as they continue to roll along as well. No Kings, no Ducks, unfortunately. But the Vegas Golden Knights are moving on. We know that for sure. Great show tonight here from Kings Cove in El Segundo. We're back at it again next week, Tuesday night, from Patrick Malloy's in Hermosa Beach. Have a great weekend, everybody. For Keith Jackson, I'm Brad Dalius. Keep living the dream. We'll talk to you next week.